Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm gonna talk about if you should train when you are sick and how you can go back to training after an illness. The reason I'm bringing this up is because I'm sick myself at the moment and I'm not feeling very well, as you can probably hear and see very easily. And I was wondering if I should be training during that time or if I should just lie in bed or sit on the sofa and do nothing. I was also wondering how I should go back to training after my illness, so I thought that's a very good opportunity to share it with you guys so you can learn something from my current situation. So in full disclosure, I contracted COVID-19. It started yesterday with having a bit of a sore throat, but overnight I developed a high fever and also got a runny nose, so I thought it might be worth getting myself tested, and it turns out my test result was positive. So I'm in isolation right now, and that means of course that I can't go to a public gym. And I think that's very common courtesy, that if you know that you have a contagious disease, that you do not go to a public gym because you could infect others. So I'm staying at home, but I was still wondering, can I work out or should I work out? And when it comes to working out when sick, there are some rules of thumb. Experts say that when you are sick above the neck, that you can work out if you're up to it. And what that means is if you have a headache or an earache, or if you have a stuffy nose and you have one of these symptoms in isolation and you feel like you are fit enough to go and do your workout, then you can do it. But you should maybe consider reducing the intensity of your workout or reducing the length of your workout to adapt to how you feel. And you should listen to your body, and also don't be afraid to stop in the middle of your workout if you feel that this is too much. However, experts also say that when you are sick below the neck, so if you are coughing, if you have chest ache, if you're nauseous, or if you have diarrhea, any of these symptoms, either alone or in combination, then you shouldn't be working out. And that's for several reasons. So first of all, most of these diseases are caused by infectious diseases. And if you have an infection, then your body and especially your immune system needs all energy it can get to fight this infection. And the next thing is, when you have an infection, that often goes along with a fever, and especially when you have a fever, you should really absolutely not work out, because your core temperature is then already elevated, and working out will elevate that temperature even further, which makes it even harder for your body to recover and fight this illness. So as you see, when you work out, that puts a stress on your body, which is usually well tolerated when you are healthy, but when you are sick, your body is already stressed out and it tries its best to fight this infection. But if you then add the additional stress of working out, that can really limit your body's ability to fully heal and recover as fast as possible. And what's more is that, especially with viral infection and especially when you have a fever, that can cause the virus to spread throughout your body. And in rare but really bad cases, it can also infect the heart, which is obviously not something you want, because recovery from myocarditis, so inflammation and infection of the heart, usually takes 3 to 6 months to recover from. So you'd be better off taking a week or two off from training, fully recover, and then resume your training, instead of pushing yourself to the limit, training when you're sick, and then risking having to abstain from training for half a year. So that's what the science says about working out. In summary, if you are sick above the neck, then you can work out if you feel up to it. If you're sick below the neck, if you have an infection, and especially if you have a fever, you should really not work out and take some time and resume training when you are fully recovered. Okay, so it's day 2. I do feel a lot better. I do feel better, not a lot better. The main thing that improved is that I don't have a fever anymore, so my temperature is only slightly elevated, but my cough is still very intense and my runny nose hasn't improved at all since yesterday, but I think we're heading in a good direction. So it's day 3 and I don't look like it, but I feel a lot better. My fever has definitely gone now, and my runny nose has improved as well, but the cough is still there, and that's actually the very nasty thing. So I'm coughing so much and so intensely at times that my abs and the muscles in my lower back have gotten sore from it, and that's why I will do some light stretching later in the day. And that's actually okay, because science tells us that even when you're sick, you can do 20 to 30 minutes of very light activity. What that means specifically is that you can go for a short and very easy walk if you feel up to it, or you can do some very light stretching or mobility drills, as long as you don't put any stress on your cardiorespiratory system, so on your lungs and your heart. Because stretching is very easy, very gentle. I will do 20 to 30 minutes of stretching later on. So I just finished up with some stretching for today. It's now day 6 after I've experienced my first symptoms, and I am symptom free today, and yesterday I was almost symptom free. That also means that today is my last day of isolation, and tomorrow I'm free to go out again. However, that doesn't mean that I will jump right back into training tomorrow, because it might be different for other diseases, but for COVID, it is actually recommended that you take at least 10 days off from training. And it's also recommended that before you pick up training again, you've been symptom-free for at least 7 days. So I will wait until next week until I begin with my training again, but I will check in with you guys as soon as I go back to the gym again. So it's finally time for me to pick up exercising again after taking a break of almost 2 weeks. And as much as I'd like to jump right back in where I left off, I know this is not the most reasonable thing to do. It might be different from disease to disease, but for COVID there are actually some guidelines as to how and when you should go back to training. And according to experts in the field, there are some criteria that suggest if you can safely return to training already. So the first criteria is that you have rested for at least 10 days since your positive test result or the first occurrence of symptoms. Then the second criteria is that you've been symptom-free for at least 7 days now, and that's also the reason why I waited so long until I resumed training. And the next thing is that you can walk at least 500 meters without feeling excessively fatigued or out of breath. Additionally, if you had a severe case of COVID or you experienced symptoms such as chest pain, breathlessness, or irregular heartbeat, then you should consult with your medical doctor first, as they can do some tests and evaluate if you are already fit enough for training. And of course, in any case, if you feel unsure if you can already resume to training safely, consult with your medical doctor, as they know you and your health best. But once you got cleared for training, be it by meeting these 3 criteria or by getting the okay from your doctor, you shouldn't just jump right back in where you left off, but you should actually ease your way back into training. And there are guidelines that have been published by Swiss Olympics in collaboration with the University Hospital of Zurich, and that is also backed by many scientists and researchers and experts in the field. And this graduated return to sports program looks as follows. So first, you have phase 0, that's this rest period of at least 10 days that I mentioned before. And you can do some light activity like going about your daily business, very easy walking or stretching, but you should allow yourself time to recover. Then the next phase is where I'm just at, which is phase 1. During this phase, you can do some light physical activity, such as walking, light jogging, sitting on a stationary bike, but you shouldn't do strength training just yet. And also these sessions should be limited to around 15 minutes, and you should keep intensity quite low. When that worked well, you can progress to phase 2A. On this training day, you can increase the length of your workout to around 30 minutes. You can also increase intensity a little bit. When that goes well too, you can then go to step 2B. Now you can increase the length of your workout to 45 minutes, and you can do some more complex training, weightlifting, while prioritizing technique, for example, would be a good idea. But you can also do some more intense or longer cardio sessions if that's your thing. When this phase has been successful, then you can progress to step 3, and during this phase you can resume with your normal training activity and follow your usual workout regime. However, you should limit yourself to 60 minutes, and again you should keep an eye on the training intensity, so maybe don't do a HIIT workout during this phase, but other than that it's pretty much like your regular workout sessions. But while you're progressing through these different phases in order to build up to your regular training schedule again, it's very important that you take any signs from your body seriously and monitor how you're feeling while doing these workouts. Meaning that if you experience any new symptoms, and especially if you experience breathlessness or excessive fatigue, then you should rest for at least 24 hours and go back to the previous training phase, run through that again before you progress again. And maybe it's also a good idea to talk to your doctor. And once you have completed all of these 3 phases, you can do your regular workout plan for as long as your workouts usually take. So there's no time limit, there's also no intensity limits, so basically you just return to your regular training. I know this sounds very excessive and overly cautious, and maybe it is. However, I believe that with every illness or injury, you should allow yourself enough time to fully recover before you go back to training again. And the reason I think that is, when you're sick or injured, you can't give it your all, so you won't make the progress you're after anyway. But by still working out when sick or injured, you might prolong your recovery process, and fitness and exercise are meant to add to your life, not take away from it. So everything that impairs your recovery process is basically something you should be avoiding. Plus, whatever fitness goals you might have, building muscle or gaining strength or running your first marathon, working out is a long-term project, and none of these things can be achieved overnight. And while taking 2 to 3 weeks off from training might sound like it's stealing some precious workout time, it's nothing compared to the weeks and months and years of training that are still ahead of you. But having said all this now, let's go through my first post-COVID workout session. I'm really excited. So it's day 19 now, and I've completed my gradual comeback to training program. It's also Friday, because I usually take my rest days over the weekend. I'll resume with my regular training program next Monday. It's been around 3 weeks now since I had my last regular workout session, and I think my past me would have completely freaked out about this and would have jumped right back into training as soon as I only felt slightly less shitty, which is very interesting actually, because now I am totally cool with having taken these 3 weeks off and having eased my way back into training. But I guess I know a very important fact now that I didn't know then, which is that taking up to 3 weeks off from training does not negatively impact your strength or muscle gains in the long run. And this was shown in many studies, such as in this one from Ogasawara and colleagues. In their study, participants alternated between training for 6 weeks and taking 3-week training breaks. And although the participants lost some size and strength during these 3-week training breaks, after half a year they ended up having gained the same amount of muscle mass and the same amount of strength as if they had been training continuously for that time period. Additionally, the muscle loss seen during these 3-week breaks is probably not even true muscle loss, but is rather caused by less glycogen being stored within the muscle tissue and therefore less water retention. Therefore, taking this 3-week break from training makes your muscles look smaller and might also decrease your strength a little bit. However, you'll gain it back within a matter of weeks once you resume with training again. So there's really nothing to worry about when taking some time off from the gym to recover from an illness or an injury. And I actually talk about this in more detail in a previous video. I'll link it up here and also down in the description box if you're interested what happens to your muscle mass and strength gains when you take a week, a month, or even a year off from training. But that was it for today's video. I really hoped you enjoyed it or you learned something. And if you did, then please leave me a thumbs up. Also subscribe to my channel to see more videos like this in the future. I hope you have a nice day. Take care of yourself and I see you in the next video. Bye.